This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. The midterm elections may be over, but tribal leaders and voting rights advocates say the fight to protect Native voting rights is year-round. We sat down with Native American Rights Fund staff attorney Natalie Landreth in Anchorage shortly before Election Day. NARF and partners in a coalition are identifying restrictions and exploring solutions. Their work included the surveying of more than 4,000 Native voters in 4 states and 10 field hearings.
They were absolutely shocking. Places like, there were certain places that we discovered where they wouldn't let people vote if they lived in a mobile home, claiming that it wasn't a permanent residence. There were places where, you have to drive 80 miles each way in order to register, whereas in other states, you can register online. There seem to be created all these various hurdles.
The coalition heard testimony about voter intimidation with armed officers and other forms.
A polling place where a tribe had requested it for many, many years. The jurisdiction relented and allocated them a polling place, but made it right on the boundary of the reservation, so you had to cross the road. And it was in a chicken coop beside someone's house. So you actually had to duck down and go into a chicken coop, which still had egg crates and egg boxes in it. And that's something clearly designed to demean the people.
In Alaska, tribal leaders say fixing some barriers needs legislative change. Tlingit and Haida Indian Tribes President Richard Peterson.
In rural Alaska, it's tough to get an ID. And so we want to be making sure that we're talking about that, and that you don't have to, in a community of a couple hundred people, when the voter registrar knows you, that should be enough, not having to have that photo ID that you have to fly into Bethel or Nome or to get, and most people don't make those trips very often. People in the lower 48 fly cross country for less than what it takes to go, just a little ways for people in rural Alaska.
Past elections have shown the Native vote matters. Many say Alaska Native people played a key role in U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski's successful write-in campaign. Some strides have been made through litigation. In Alaska, Native language voter assistance, and in Nevada, voter registration sites and polling places on tribal lands. Landreth says despite challenges, Native people always find a way to come back.
Why do they have to fight this hard to vote? Why do they have to sue to vote? Why do they have to buy their own machines, pay for their own polling places, and issue their own IDs? Voter suppression. We as Indigenous people have been here a lot longer and have been through an enormous amount and aren't going to be kept down by something like this.
The voting rights website, vote.narf.org, was recently rolled out and includes the findings by the coalition. Emmett Shkimi Garcia, a Tamiya storyteller from New Mexico, says there are many misconceptions about Native people.
I've heard every kind of question there is, and one of the biggest misconceptions is, of course, the general, do you still live in teepees? I think the misconception is that we're just all one people speaking one language, that there's not many of us, or we're not around anymore, or we don't pay taxes, state or federal, that we're just receiving checks from our tribe to exist, those kinds of questions.
Garcia speaks nationally.
So I use storytelling as a way to educate. I not only share the legends, but I always incorporate a little bit of history of New Mexico's tribes. We have our own government, population, history, language, and the languages are so different, like German and Chinese. They're not even related to one another. That just always gets a reaction.
He says events during Native American Heritage Month and Thanksgiving are good times to share Indigenous culture. I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced at the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios by Kiwanis Broadcast Corporation. Funding is by Odawi Law Group, provider of Indian law solutions, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with support from the Public Radio Satellite System.
From northern Minnesota, Red Lake Nation Foods is pleased to support this show and share the bounty of the harvests, wild rice products, and wild fruit jams, jellies, and syrups produced by American Indians and available at redlakenationfoods.com. PBS wants to hear from you. Are you watching the 4-part series Native America on your local PBS station? PBS wants to know how you continue your cultural knowledge and tradition. PBS is collecting stories like yours at pbs.org/Native Voices.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.